Today on the We Invested podcast, we have Anthony Delauney, a certified financial planner, a franchise business owner, and the author of 3 financial education books in the Owning the Dash series. Anthony, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Thank you so very much for having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for joining us. And before we get started, would you mind letting the people know how they can find you on the internet and social media?
Sure. Best place to go would be www.owningthedash.com. That's OWNING, the-dash.com.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's just start from the beginning and take it all the way from the top, man, and talk a little bit about, where you grew up and where you're from.
Awesome. So originally from Maryland, but I've been in North Carolina since 2005. So kind of feel like I'm a North Carolina guy these days. And basically went to college, University of Richmond, and right out of college, I came into the financial services world and became a financial planner. And I've been doing the same thing for the past 19 years. So it's a bit of a passion. In that time, I got married, I had 2 kids. Now I have a 12-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old son. And actually had a life event that happened to me back in 2015, which really is what kind of changed the trajectory of my life. And it was a bit of a sad event. I had a cousin. His name was Greg Plitt, Plitt, P as in puppy. And Greg was really famous in the fitness world. He was on the cover of over 250 fitness magazines. And, if you looked at him, you wouldn't think he's my cousin because our physique didn't quite look the same. But he's a great guy, and he's very much like an older brother to me. And he unfortunately passed away unexpectedly in 2015. And after he passed, as a way of kind of remembering him, one thing he did during his life is he had a website where members would email in questions on life and fitness, and he would do these video blogs to answer those questions. So to kind of remember him, I started watching those videos, and I realized that a lot of his philosophies as they relate to fitness could also apply to the world of finance. So I thought, how could I kind of serve as a testimonial to my cousin and do something to remember him, and came up with the idea of writing a book. And one of his videos was actually on the concept of death, and more specifically, the idea of owning the dash. And the term actually refers to on your tombstone, between your birth and your death dates, the dash in between, and just kind of taking ownership of your life and the mindset you have around just everything, your fitness, your health, your money. And it just is a very impactful moment that has led to that book, and has now led to some additional books along the way.
Man, I think that's an incredible way to commemorate a family member and to kind of keep his memory alive and keep pushing forward with what, with his vision and integrating it with yours. But, before we talk about, owning the dash, I just wanted to ask you, how did growing up in Maryland kind of impact your outlook on life and success?
Um, Honestly, Maryland, it's interesting because Maryland, I go back to visit, and a lot of Maryland hasn't changed that much. There's some areas that have, but it seems like when I go back, I'm almost stepping back in time sometimes. And it almost felt like a bit of a bubble that I was living in out there. Of course, the state's changed a lot, but here in North Carolina, it's kind of like a constantly evolving environment where different people from different backgrounds, different cultures coming in, and it kind of feels like 2 different worlds, honestly. But I love both states. They both have a lot of joys every time I go into them.
For sure. And so, you mentioned just a few moments ago about owning the dash. So I wanted to ask you, what is owning the dash?
Sure. So just like I was saying earlier, like the idea behind owning the dash is actually a poem that was written a while back that was about kind of that time on the tombstone. And owning it just refers to taking a moment, pausing, and actually, we all have these dreams, we all have these visions of what we want for our life. And the question is, when you get to that end date, where are you? Where are those dreams that you had? Are they still kind of bottled up inside you? Are they regrets now? Or are they something that you said, you know what, it's scary, but I'm going to overcome that fear, and I'm not going to allow myself to come up with excuses. And I mean, no matter what stage you are in life, what place you are in life, we can always come up with excuses for why we can't do something. And And a lot of times my passion as a financial planner, I've discovered really early in the career that I had a passion for helping families. Everything about me was just, I had a family of my own, and I can see a lot what families are going through. And oddly enough, the word family can be very motivating. You want to do things for your family, but on the same end, it could be a great excuse, like, oh no, I can't do that, I've got a family, or whatnot. So um, I think that the idea behind owning the dash is really just stepping back and figuring out, what am I doing, and am I going in the trajectory that I want to, or am I coming up with some excuse on why I'm not addressing my physical health, or my financial health, or my family, or my faith, or whatever it might be.
So, how did you get started in this industry? What let you know that you had that spark or that interest in, financial services and the financial industry itself?
So in high school, they had something called superlatives, which are basically like most likely to do this, most likely to become that. And I was voted among my high school peers as the most worrisome person in our school. So I don't even know how they were allowed to offer that back in the day. I mean, it's like, who's the craziest person in school? But I was voted the most worrisome, which I didn't know when I was in college that this was going to be the path that I necessarily was going to have. I actually put my resume on something called monsterjobs.com. And I don't even know if that exists anymore, but somebody found me, and the person who found me actually said, do you want a job where you can have the mindset of a capitalist, but the heart of a philanthropist, meaning you can help people and get paid to do it. And that really just struck me, just being in a career path where you're doing good for others. And if you do a good job of it, you get compensated for that. So um, it's been something that I had no idea really going into it, just how much I'd enjoy it. But being a worrier, it was kind of the best or worst scenario you could have with being a financial planner. It meant I never took anybody for granted who decided to bring me on board. And it also, if somebody was worried about something, chances are I could relate to them, because I know those kind of internal worries that exist.
So, what mindset is necessary to own the dash between your start and your end date?
So one of the big things that I realized as I was writing the book is that, as I mentioned, Greg was like an older brother to me. And for those that knew him, and if you research him, you find that he was very much kind of your stereotypical alpha male, meaning that he very confident in himself, didn't hold back from pursuing his dreams and his passions, and just kind of one of those individuals that when you're talking to him, you felt like, you could almost feel that energy, and it motivated you to push forward. He made it actually very clear that he never judged others, but he pushed others, if that makes sense. And so I was in some many ways the opposite of Greg. I was the warrior, the guy who played it safe, and didn't step out of my bounds. And talking about that mindset shift, I realized kind of that when it comes to in the world of finance, as an example, over the years, I became more confident in understanding how money works, how investing works, and things of that nature. And that confidence gave me the ability to do things that some individuals might consider scary, like investing in the market, or setting aside something. So I think the idea behind owning the dash is that if you put forward the game plan, if you actually say, I'm going to commit to this, that's the hardest step. It's kind of like going to the gym. I'll share just a little side story. I actually write about this in the book, that when I first started writing it, Greg on his website had over 400 different exercises. And, I had worked out before, but I hadn't seen half of these things. And it was kind of crazy just trying to go to the gym and try these things out. And while I was there was this guy. I'd go to the gym in the morning, and there was always this guy there that was like twice the size of me. He had Greg's kind of build. And every time I went there, I saw this gentleman. He was always there before me, and he was always lifting like twice the weight I could ever. He was practically lifting my weight. And I started to resent him. I started to think, I started to come up with excuses on how, he probably doesn't have the situation I have, or, whatever. I didn't even know that the gentleman, and I was basically judging him. And one day while we're both working out, our paths cross, and I just basically say, hey, you're really setting a high bar for me. And he says back, oh, no, 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 man, I've been watching you. You've been doing great. By the way, my name's Josh. And long story short, that conversation turned into I found out he's a great guy. I found out he's got kids of his own, and all those things, things I was building in my head about what he thought about me. I realized almost immediately we're totally wrong. And I think that kind of applies to just the way we view life, where from that point forward, when I went to the gym, I wasn't thinking, oh, this guy's thinking less of me or trying to bring me down. This guy actually wants me to do well, and he's there to motivate me. And I was inspired and I was encouraged to go there. And I think that the idea behind owning the dash can also be just this idea of the world is not against you. And it can be if you let it. If you convince yourself that the world's against you, it will find a way to turn on you. But if you go into it with that attitude of, I can accomplish this, I can do this, and the world wants me to do it, and people believe in me, that energy just kind of flows. So owning the dash really goes back to just not judging yourself and not judging others, and just believing you can make it happen.
That's awesome. So, what would you say is the inspiration or the motivation behind the series of books that you've written and authored?
So the original one was definitely Greg, and trying to bring that piece to life. And really, the first book's about helping young families, because I think that that transition into getting married or start having kids, it's a pretty big transition. And if you don't have the conversation, if you go into it kind of blind, it's like going to the gym and trying to work on a machine you've never tried before. You might get injured pretty fast. So that was definitely the inspiration behind the original book. And as time passed, a lot of people said, Tony, that book was really helpful, but what about the next big transition, which is the transition into retirement? And that's a period where the years kind of leading right up to retirement and the years thereafter are, if you make some poor decisions, they can really, really harm you. And like when do I start taking Social Security? How do I start taking out of my retirement accounts? How do I address the medical and just all those other what ifs? Do I have enough? Because once you retire, it's not as easy to just jump back into the working system, especially when you're in your 50s and 60s and 70s. So the inspiration behind the second book, which comes out on April 12th, it's called the No Regrets Retirement Roadmap. It's really just to help individuals kind of have that, watch out for this, be prepared for this, so that when you do make that transition, you're not saying, oh, I should have thought about this, or I should have done this. Because once you do certain things, you can't go back on. Once you activate Social Security, you usually can't turn it off or whatnot. So that was the big inspiration. And the third book I have is actually a lot of families that I work with have kids, and then some have young, some have college, some have teenagers. And a phrase I constantly hear is, oh, I wish I'd learned this stuff earlier. How do I start talking to my kids about this? And I was trying to figure out the best way to do that. And I realized that the best way kids don't learn by you telling them what to do. As much as we hope they will learn from us telling them what to do, they sometimes do the opposite. But kids definitely seem to learn very well through storytelling. So one story that really hit home for me, that created the original book, children's book that I wrote, was something called the Marshmallow Study. Are you familiar at all with that study? It's
No.
Okay. So basically, the Marshmallow Study was a study done a while back where they put kids in a room and they gave them a marshmallow and said, I'm going to leave this here. I'll be back in a moment. If the marshmallow is still there, I'll give you another marshmallow. And they decided to see which kids could resist the temptation and which kids could not. And then they studied to see how kids reacted to other things, depending on how they reacted to that study. So in the story, what I did is it's called Dash and Nikki and the Jellybean Game. And it just involves a brother and sister who might happen to look just like my kids, and might have similar personalities to my kids. And they wake up one morning and they find there's a letter waiting for them. And the letter invites them to play the Jellybean Game, where they each get 10 jelly beans to start off the day. And for each hour they can resist, they get 5 more. And as you can imagine, there's one child who maybe he likes to win, and he wants to just hoard all those jelly beans. And the other one that might be a bit more impulsive and eats it right from the start. And basically, what both parents and kids get to see in the story is that uh, if you do save, sometimes you can have a much bigger reward at the end. And that concept can definitely apply to just so many different areas. But as an investor, we kind of think, if I just start saving a little bit now, look at what it can grow into. Um, and there's another little twist that goes on in the story that involves kind of compassion and things of that nature. But I think it's really important to just kind of give those little things that get the conversation started with kids, where they actually, when they're in that position, they think, what would I do? Would I do what Dash did or what Nikki did? And then in some ways, maybe gets the parents thinking too, like, what kind of example am I giving my kids right now? Am I acting more like one of these children or the other? So that's the inspiration behind the kids' books, just to kind of get the conversations going.
No, and I think that's a great way to kind of, um, bring that awareness to the younger generation, to the younger generations about the importance of, just saving and kind of being mindful of what you have. And, like you mentioned earlier, just saving may give you the chance to receive a bigger reward or a bigger pile of jelly beans in the end.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure. And so, as I mentioned earlier, and then something that I also thought was interesting is that, you're the owner of a franchise business, as well as an author, and a certified financial planner. So I just wanted to, ask, what is the importance of having multiple revenue sources for you, and why did you focus on building these different streams of income?
Well, I've got to say that the Owning the Dash brand initially was more of a passion, and just something that was built out of not even knowing where the book was going to go. But I did realize that it could turn into something where I could really reach out to others and make it into a business. But to your point, being a business owner and a financial planner, yes, the old phrase of not having all of your eggs in one basket is definitely something. I think one of the things that prevents us from moving forward in life is fear of the unknown. And the most successful families I've worked with, or people just in general, are the ones that focus on flexibility, because life is always changing. I mean, even the goals that you have now, they may be totally different 5 to 10 years from now, or at least partially. And if you start having a family, things change there as well. So I think that being flexible in how you do things, and not locking yourself into just one strategy, or one career path for that matter. That doesn't mean just jump around from job to job, but find something that you are passionate about. Find something that doesn't limit your potential, and just dive in as much as you can to it, and don't hold back. So that's one area. Flexibility is kind of key. The other key thing for successful families, I think, is really systematizing as much as you can. And what I mean by that is that when you don't think about it, emotion doesn't get in the way. So emotion and money don't go very well together. So if you find that a lot of times, if, for example, with investing, if you're doing something that you're trading on a daily basis because of something you heard about or read about, chances are emotion might be kicking in there. And if you're using, the world is kind of built around trying to influence your decision making. So just things that you can do to try to minimize external forces impacting your decisions is really key. So systematizing is like if you just automatically save a little bit into a 401k, or if you, or an IRA, a Roth IRA, or just a savings account, just something where you're systematically doing it. And I would also say that kind of having a purpose to everything you have is really essential. So if you're going to have, a lot of people are familiar with like a net worth statement, right? You have your assets and your liabilities. But what I've noticed that's really a key piece that's missing is that people might have a list of different assets that they have, or liabilities, but they don't really have a purpose to each one of those assets. It's kind of like, I have this account here and that account there, and I don't really know why I've got them there. What if that's for education or for retirement, whatever it might be. And then for liabilities, I know I've got these 3 or 4 things that I have, but I don't really know how much I'm paying on each one. I don't know what the interest rate is on that piece. And if you just kind of write out a net worth statement and you write out kind of the purpose for each one of those assets and the estimated return that asset should be receiving, like a retirement asset should be, you can take more risk with that than you would that if it's 10 or 15 years away versus money you want for a down payment on a house that might be 2 or 3 years away or whatever it might be. So I think that just kind of to your point on having multiple sources of revenue and whatnot, I think that everything in your life needs to have a purpose. If you're going to try to have multiple sources, you really need to make sure that you know why and what is the intent behind getting a rental property or whatever it might be. Are you doing that because everybody else is doing it, or are you doing it because the income from that is meant to cover this? If you're planning on using rental income to pay for something that's going to be needed 5 to 10 years from now, you don't want to be in a position where you have to sell that property in the short term. So I hope that makes sense or answers your question.
Yes, sir, for sure, for sure. So, is entrepreneurship a skill set that you've always had, or is it something that developed over time?
Um, so I started in it right out of college, and I honestly think I was too naive to know what I was getting into. My hours back when I started were basically 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And in some ways I was grateful because that's all I knew. I knew part-time work and whatnot while I was in high school and college. But I think that sometimes being naive can be a good thing, because if you start to set this premise on, well, these are the confines I'm going to put on myself, that's immediately subject to failure. That's like going to the gym and saying, I'm not going to give up my Twinkies and donuts, but I'll work out a few days a week. You gotta be, all in on entrepreneurship. The other thing that someone told me when I started in the career was that in the first 4 years, you're going to be underpaid. And the next 4 years, you'll be possibly appropriately paid. Beyond that, if you've done a good job, you'll be well compensated for what you do. And I've got to say that I've worked with a lot of small business owners over the years, and that statement is so accurate. Most small businesses fail in the first 3 years. And a lot of times it is just really building that foundation. If you've just got to realize that you're going through a grind for a purpose. I'm doing this and I'm motivated to do this. If you're doing it trying to just do the minimal amount, entrepreneurship is not your route. You essentially are your own boss. So for me, being a worrier, that was a good thing, because I was never gonna allow myself to slack off, because I'd always be worried about what am I doing? I should be doing more right now. But I definitely think that it has to be that long-term mindset. It's just like going, I know I keep using fitness analogies, but you go back to the gym, you go to the gym and you think you're going to lose weight in the first few weeks. My cousin Greg used to say it's a marathon, not a sprint. So I think that's one key piece when it comes to entrepreneurship.
Nah, man, that was a great quote. Would you mind repeating that for me? You said first 4 years you'll be underpaid. And then how did it go? I want to make sure I write that down correctly. I like that quote.
Sure. So the first 4 years, you're going to be underpaid. The next 4 years, you'll be adequately paid. And if you do a great job for your clients, and you're ethical and you're honest, and you keep working to improve, the years beyond that, you'll be properly compensated for the work you do.
Nah, man, that's awesome. And I think that's a great way to look at it, and a great way to instill that mindset in the people, like just to let people know it's not going to be overnight. It's not going to happen. It may not happen as fast as you want it to happen, but if you just stay consistent and keep working at it, you'll eventually get to that level that you want to be at.
Yeah, and I would also just stress, most individuals that are successful will tell you that the thing that makes them successful is the grind. If it's easy, Greg also used to say this thing, like he had an incredible body, and he used to say, like, if this was easy, everybody would have it. The reason it's so admired is because it's not easy to get. And the thing that he also pointed out is that it's not maintaining his physique that was different. It's still difficult, but it's not as hard to maintain the physique. It's getting to that point where your body is in that kind of shape. And that philosophy, I think, applies to just so many areas. If you can build the habits and build build the mindset of, I can get over these obstacles that pop up in life, because they're always going to pop up. I mean, just look at what we've been going through the past 3 years with COVID, thank goodness we're here right now, with what individuals are feeling overseas. But that's life. We can't control our circumstances. What we can control is how we react to those circumstances. So
For sure. So, throughout your career and your journey as an entrepreneur and as a financial planner and author, what would you say are some of the roadblocks or lessons that you've learned throughout your career?
biggest roadblock is fear and judgment. It goes back to everything I was saying earlier. Just, you will talk yourself. I mean, it's so easy to talk yourself out of things, to build up scenarios in your head that are you'll never know if are true. And along the same lens, it also goes, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, ask. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. But if you ask and you try things, you may find that, hey, there is that all you need sometimes is that one individual to support you, or that one opportunity that comes up. And you might have to go through a lot of muck to get there, but I think that getting over that mindset of, I'm not deserving of this, and somebody else is better than me. I think another life lesson I would say I've definitely learned is that it's not a I win, you lose, or you lose, I win type, or you win, I lose. It's a we can both win. And that mentality of just, being happy for other people's success, and at the same time building on your own, just kind of goes back to the guy I mentioned at the gym. He kept working out and he kept improving. Just because his physical net worth was better than mine didn't have anything to do with my goals or my path in life. I could improve just as he could improve. So I would say those are two big items.
How do you define success as an entrepreneur?
So I definitely don't think success and money, I think from a financial standpoint, money as it relates to stability brings happiness. So, if you know that, I'm going to be okay, and if something happens to me, my family's going to be okay, or if I lose my job, I'm kind of prepared for that, or whatever it might be, that peace of mind equates to happiness, and it makes life a little easier to get through. But I will say that I've seen families that make, $30,000 to $40,000 a year, and I've seen families that make, 300,000+ a year. And on both ends, on either end of the spectrum, I've seen people that are very happy, and I've seen people that are miserable. So having a significant amount of wealth does not mean, life's going to be great, or I'm successful. Just because I have a bigger house or a nicer car, it might be it's like that jelly bean, just an immediate moment of gratification. But sometimes when you have to work harder to get something, the knowing what you did to get there is really where that joy comes from, versus just having something handed to you. And just to kind of to that point, you may have heard that, like, a lot of people that win the lottery, they go bankrupt several years later. And part of that is because we kind of adapt to what we know. And for individuals who don't know how to handle lots of money, it's uncomfortable to them, and they put themselves in positions so that they go back to what they know, which from a bird's eye point of view sounds kind of crazy, but we're all guilty of it in some aspect of life. So I think success, really, the definition for me is confidence in what you're doing, and the ability to overcome the obstacles that pop up as you're working on your journey. If you can feel confident, you can go to sleep at the end of the day knowing, hey, I did good today, and I worked toward my goals, and I didn't hurt. I did good for others. Then that is true success.
So how would you like for people to remember you and your company?
So the mission behind Owning the Dash is to help families make sense of and manage every aspect of their financial lives. But just as importantly, it's really just meant to inspire. If I can get some conversation started, get individuals thinking a little bit differently about their lives, their money, and feeling that they have that sense of control. I think that's the hardest part. Is just a lot of money feels like, there's just all these different things: the estate planning, protection planning, retirement planning, tax planning, all this stuff. It gets really messy, and my big goal is to try to clear up that clutter and to get people inspired to feel like they have kind of some step-by-step to-dos that they can do. And if they are going to seek out help, to have kind of a roadmap on, who to look for and what to ask. So yeah, it's really just to kind of give peace of mind and direction and purpose. And the final piece is not only to inspire parents, but to inspire kids too. If we can get children to be a bit more financially literate. Dash and Nikki and the Jellybean Game was the first in the Owning the Dash Kids series. There's actually going to be 5 or 6 more that are, each children's book is going to teach a financial lesson. If you go to owningthedash.com, you'll actually see a little glimpse of the next book that's going to be coming out later this year. But yeah, it's all about just inspiring individuals to believe that, hey, this is possible, and I am worth it.
That's awesome, man. So, what does the future of Owning the Dash look like to you?
It's the hope is, and the game. No, I see. I just did it to myself. I said the hope. No, the game plan is. if you say it's a maybe, then it's probably not going to happen. You say it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So I've written the 2 books that are really geared, one towards the transition into young adulthood, and now coming out next month is the transition into retirement. Then will come 5 or 6 children's picture books that each teach a financial lesson that parents can discuss with their children. And then in addition to those, there will also likely be some games and things of that nature that just really, hopefully it becomes a name that families think of when, what can I do to kind of get the conversation started? Here's a good place to go. And especially when it comes to kids, how do we get these kids motivated? If teachers are looking for a place that they can get conversation started, it could be a good place to go.
Man, that's incredible, Anthony. And I, just want to thank you so much for your time today. And I really enjoy learning more about your company and learning how you're impacting the future generations. But before I let you go, at the end of every podcast, we like to play a rapid fire question game where I ask you 3 questions. So if you're willing to play, I'll go ahead and get started.
I'm willing to play. I'm hopeful. Yeah, we'll see.
Yes, sir. So look, question number 1. Where is your favorite place to travel?
So my favorite place to travel, it's been a really, really long time, but back when I was in college, I actually worked for a few months at Allied Irish Bank in Dublin, Ireland. And it was my first, I had no idea I was going to be a financial planner at that time, but I worked for a bank, oddly enough. So it's a beautiful place, and it just really nice individuals, and you can't get from one section of the area to another without passing a pub. So it's you have a good time there.
That's awesome. Question number 2. What song represents your life the most?
What song? Wow, that's um, it depends on the day, honestly. There's the mood you're in, but in terms of the song that probably represents it the most, it was the first song that popped into my mind. A really corny song, but it's "Always Look on the Bright Side of Life." It's kind of a Monty Python type song, so I don't know. Maybe I just recently heard it. So, but stay positive, I think, is the idea behind that one.
Nice. And look, final question. What's an amazing thing that you did that no one was around to see?
Oh gosh, you're asking me to brag about myself. That's a really tough one for me to do, being the warrior. I never want to talk like I'm the man or whatnot. I think it's the behind the scenes work. It's talking to some families. I can't speak to specifically what I've done for families, but some families were in some really difficult decisions in their life, and struggling, and very scared, and being able to see them through that. And I mean, that's really why I've been doing it for 19 years. When you get to, as a planner, honestly, see kind of, what's going on behind the scenes that nobody else gets to see, and build that level of trust. And Just as a specific example, I helped a couple go through years of trying to start a family and nearly quit. And they did bring a child into this world. So that was really, really awesome experience. They didn't think they could do it, and we found a way to make it happen financially and otherwise. So
Man, that's
that would be.
incredible. That's incredible. Anthony, thank you so much for your time today, man. I really enjoyed talking to you and getting to learn more about, your company. And like I said earlier, man, just how you're impacting the future generation. So thank you for for your service. And yeah, man, I'm excited to see what the future holds for you.
Leslie, thank you so much. This is great. I had a blast. So it's really awesome.
Thank you.